So as you've seen, so today I'm going to be talking about how I found out I was pregnant, the emotions I was going through, what I was doing, and how I kind of dealt with finding everything out at a young age. I'm not a teen mom anymore. I'm currently 21 years old, so I'm a young mom, but I'm not a teen mom. When I had my son, I was a teenager. I was 18. So I was with my boyfriend at the time, and he and I, we were obviously doing the do, which is how a baby comes into the world, by doing the do. So I found out I was pregnant. It was a weekend I was off of school, and I had noticed like my body was changing and I felt off. I didn't feel how I normally would feel. So I thought, well, I mean, I'm probably gonna get my period, and I checked my tracker and noticed, oh, no, honey, you're a few days late. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, let's take a test. You know, that's the only way to really find out what's going on. So I took a pregnancy test, and instantly it turned positive. So I found out I was pregnant within 5 seconds of peeing on a stick. So of course I panicked, and I called my best friend at the time, and I'm freaking out over the phone, crying, talking about, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. You know, what is my mom gonna say? How am I gonna handle this? Like, you know, I can't do this. Just, you know, the random thoughts that go through a teenager's head at that time. So she said, stop freaking out. The only way to figure out if that's a real test and that was a true positive is let's go to the doctors. So I went to, you know, my local doctor's office to take a test, and I took one. So the doctor led us back to the room. She came in with paperwork, looked at me and said, so did you take a test at home? And I was like, yes. And she said, and did it come out positive? And I said, yes. And she was like, great, because ours did too. And I just looked at her, and I looked at my friend, and I freaked out on the inside but held a smile. And she said, did you know what your plan is to do with the baby? And I said, honestly, I just need to think about some things. She gave me all the paperwork I needed to have. Turns out I was 5 weeks when I found out I was pregnant. At this point, I'm now freaking out, thinking, well, what in the world am I going to do with a baby at 17 years old? So I go home, I sleep on it. I start dropping hints, because at the time my sister lived with us, my mom lived with us. So at this time I'm dropping hints to my sister and my mom, like, well, what if I was pregnant? Like, what happens if I find out I'm pregnant? And they would drop jokes here and there. Vic, my sister, she made comments and would make jokes, and I would literally push you down the stairs. And as bad as that sounds, I knew she was joking, because obviously I have a 2-year-old, so she didn't really do it. But like, it was just, she would crack jokes here and there. And so eventually I went to my grandma's house, and may she rest in peace, my grandma. But I went to my grandma's house, and I told my cousin, who had just recently had a baby, and she and I are the same age, and I'm like, Haley, I'm like, so I got something to tell you. And she looked at me and said, okay. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. And she looked at me and said, you're lying. And I was like, no, I'm not lying. So we went to Dollar General, and we bought 3 pregnancy tests, and we went back to my grandma's house, and I took each one, and they came out positive. Each one of them came out positive. And she freaked out on me, and she was like, I can't believe this. You know, who else knows? And I said, nobody knows, just you. And we went out, and she's like, you got to tell grandma, because grandma will understand. She'll help you. And I go out there, okay? I'm like, okay, fine. I'll tell my grandma, because my grandma's cool. And my she's awesome. And so I go out there, and I'm like, grandma, I got something to tell you. And she looked me dead in my face and did not miss a beat. And she was like, you're pregnant. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, you're pregnant. And I'm like, yes. And she was like, yeah, I knew. And I was like, how did you know? And she was like, I could tell. So I'm looking at her, and I'm like, well, how do I tell mom? She's like, honestly, you just tell her. And I'm like, easy for you to say. Have you met my mom? Which she has. They were very close, but not the point. So, okay, flash forward. I'm back home, back in school regularly. And so I continue making jokes to my sister and my mom about being pregnant, and they're not picking up on it. So my sister is out or doing something. I don't remember if she was sleeping or if I think she was out with her friends. And I finally told my mom, because I had to tell them separately. because I couldn't tell them together because my family is just full of Jews and I can't do that together. It's too much. So I had to tell them separately. So I told my mom first. I figured my mom would take it easier. So I told my mom. My mom made me pee on a stick, and that instantly came out positive. And she looked me dead in my face and was like, well, we know you're just like me, because when I was pregnant with your sister, that's exactly how it happened. I just instantly turned positive. So I, being emotional, went to the kitchen to eat some grapes. I don't remember what I was eating. I think it was grapes. And she came around the corner and she was like, just so you know, being pregnant does not give you the excuse to eat everything in the house. And I'm just like, did you just say that to me? And she did. She said that to me. And I just looked at her. Then came the time to tell my sister. Now, when I tell you that this was the most intense moment of my life, quickly, let me give you a backstory of me and my sister. So my sister and I were 5 years apart. Granted, my sister and I never really got along when I was younger, but now that I'm older, we get along great. As far as I'm concerned, on my end, we get along great. And I noticed, like, when I was younger, she had a lot of looking at me like she had to raise me, and she was there for me a lot and did things like she didn't have to do as my sister. She did. And I appreciate her a lot for that. So I had to think of a way to tell her, and I wasn't going to tell her some cute way because I knew she would like rip it up and throw it in my face. But so I ended up just coming out and being like, so I'm pregnant. And she looked me in my face and said, what are you going to do about it? And she got up and left. And I'm like sitting there like, well, that could have went a lot worse. Flash forward. I'm like growing this human inside of me. I'm feeling very weird. I'm still continuing to go to school. Mind you, I'm a senior in high school. And I noticed like I'm getting closer to graduation and this baby is growing. Now, I did not show my whole pregnancy. Nobody knew I was pregnant. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody in my high school career knew I was pregnant except for who needed to know. I walked across the stage in wedges, 5 months pregnant. I was walking across the stage. And I graduated, and still no one had a clue I was pregnant. Now, come a few months later, October, my baby was born. I had him on the 1st at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. That was early. And he came, and he was healthy and beautiful, and I posted him on Facebook, and you won't believe the comments and reviews that I received. Nobody believed that it was my son. Nobody. You were pregnant? You didn't tell anybody? I want to make something clear. It was nobody's business but my own that I was pregnant. So I kept it from everybody because it didn't have anything to do with anybody but my family. And so when I had him, it was less drama. But when I had him, everybody loved him. And going through all my emotions and feeling what I felt, it was hard as a young girl, looking at what my future is going to hold being a mother. Now you gotta look at it like I have to teach this little human how to put on shoes, how to put on socks, how to put on pants, how to go to the bathroom, how to brush their teeth. Like, you have to teach this person all of this. And you look at yourself and you're like, do I even know how to do all this correctly? No, but you learn as you go, and it's a first time for everybody, as you can tell, and you learn as you go. And it's a great experience. Like, I love my son. And looking back, it's like I know that my mom and my sister weren't very happy at the beginning of the pregnancy, but they are my biggest supporters now. Like, they were there through every step of the way. And it's like, if I need them, I can call them, and they are there. So my point is that I had that support, and I do still have that support. So my point is that I'd like to reach out, because I know a lot of teen moms, people who are pregnant, people who are going through this, they might not have that support that I had. And I want to be that support. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put my Instagram in the description below. Please feel free to reach out to me. You have any questions, you're going through postpartum, because believe that or not, postpartum is real. That is some real stuff that women experience. Those are emotions that women don't know how to deal with at that time. So, and I know, because you can be happy one minute, look at your baby and start crying. I was there. I've done it. So I want, if you are going through that and you need someone to listen to, you need to vent, you need to talk, you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Granted, it's been some years, but I'm still here. Like, I'd still love to hear from everybody. And I just kind of want to let people know, like, I just want to build a foundation that people feel safe. And you have questions, I'd love to answer them. If you have topics you want to discuss, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to address them and go about discussing further if anybody needs so. But I wanted to share my story and let those who are watching know that I'm here for them if they need me. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody.